What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Stocks by the Numbers. Today is Wednesday, the 18th, about midday here, quarter after 12 Eastern Standard Time. And I wanted to do a quick update here on this stock that apparently we kind of got right. The problem was that we were just a couple of months early. And of course, turmoil overseas in the Middle East definitely helped the situation here. Name of the company we're talking about is Ammo Inc., ticker symbol POWW, listed here on the NASDAQ. As we see, stock up now to $2.64, down 8 cents, almost around 3% here on the day. And this was around the last time we looked at it, I believe. It was back in the middle of July. I was talking about this support line that it had to hold. And of course, as we see, the stock was kind of in this channel here for quite some time. And that's why I basically, kind of tried to make the prediction that, as you see, I drew out my path here, and I just kind of thought that we would bounce off of this support trend line and then kind of rise up to potentially retest this, and then, of course, with the earnings, potentially break out back up to around 286 there. And as we see, that is not exactly what happened, right? We ended up breaking that support trend line, dropping down to 195. Wasn't a crazy drop, of course, because the stock was very low twos when we looked at it. But, of course, went down before it went up. Then we had a nice spike up here to 242, as it says there, top left of the screen. And then, of course, we have a pullback back to slightly sub 2. And then, boom, right there, Friday, October 6th, as you see, closed at $1.99. Everyone goes to sleep, enjoys their weekend. We wake up Monday, boom, Israel apparently involved in a conflict, and of course the stock absolutely explodes, hitting a high today of 282. So almost went up just in about the last week and a half to that exact level that we spoke about. Of course, again, if we come back from the time that we looked at it back in mid-July, we can see that the company reported earnings and much more profitable than Wall Street expected. However, ended up missing on the revenue side by about $4.5 million, which of course isn't a good look. And that's why I can appreciate the fact that the stock went down before it went up, and of course pulled back and retested. Now again, the turmoil overseas in the Middle East with Israel is definitely, in my opinion, what really spiked this stock up. But of course, at the same time, I did mention that we were in kind of this tight consolidating channel, and it was probably only a matter of time. So again, I could have been early. However, if we do like something like this, right, you can see, yeah, it was a few months early. However, I almost got the path of how the stock would move almost exactly. So, I'm not really here to pat myself on the back, about this path or whatever, but, I'm just showing you guys that, basically, once you put in a lot of time and gain a lot of this experience, that's what I mean. Like, you can start to map out, like, what you think is going to happen. And, of course, I always preach it's much easier to react instead of trying to predict. But, again, I took a shot. I basically gave my opinion that this is what I think the stock would do and how it would move. And, again, a couple of months early. But we are seeing the move here that we were anticipating. Now the real question is, I know a lot of people are probably like, oh, it's been running. Do I get in now at 264? And in my opinion, the answer is no, right? So first of all, again, it broke up above this trend line here, going from this top to this top. And of course, it went down and had a little bounce off of this trend line, which in my opinion, technically, is a bullish signal. However, because it chunked up so much so quick, I have a feeling that these big sharp up candles like this, I have a feeling that it's going to sell off and drop like right back down to where it was before it chunked up. Maybe it'll hold about half of this rally. So that's why I feel like maybe a pullback to like the 230s would be justified here. And then it could potentially bounce from there, because I'm sure the RSI is pretty high right now. And we could potentially bounce from here and then have a rally back up going into this earnings here, looking like mid-November, estimates of only 34.45 million. So that's a little bit lower. That's basically what they reported last quarter. But if we go back, as you see, that's lower. Big misses there, right, which is what started this whole channel. But as you see, the last couple of quarters wasn't really as low as these estimates here. So because earnings have been inconsistent, and of course the ammunition industry slowed down a little bit, remember these estimates were kind of put out, a couple of quarters in advance before these analysts heard about the war in Israel. So I can appreciate the fact that they bring these estimates down a little bit for this quarter, slightly sub 34.5. And listen, I mean, the company could very well beat on the top and bottom lines there. And again, coming back from last quarter, the company seems to have turned around their profitability a little bit. So if the company is able, on some sort of overseas turmoil or even potentially any type of political turmoil that happens here in the States, if this company could somehow begin to generate a little bit more revenue like they were several quarters back, then we could be looking at, the next potentially 1-2 beats in a row, and we could get back above this trend line here at around 286 and potentially get back into the threes. Because if we look at the numbers, in my opinion, it does seem like the stock, I will say, is still undervalued. And again, I can appreciate the fact that they missed earnings, so I totally understand why they chunked them down. But again, when stocks get beaten up and they drop to lows, that's when we buy them. And right, when they rip, that's when we sell the rips. We buy the dips, we sell the rips. Here, market cap 311 million. As you see, the last several quarters, even though again the revenue has been struggling, the company maintaining profitability on the EPS side, coming in with big beats here the last several quarters on the EPS side. And you can see, again, revenue did drop down from 21 to 22 because, again, 2020, we kind of had that whole election fiasco here in the States. A lot of people started flipping out. So what did they do? They grabbed their guns, they grabbed their ammunition, and they locked and loaded. So 21 was a great year for POW Inc. And now, as you see here, 22, we had a little bit of a dip there, down to 191 million, and of course the profitability dropped off. But if we switch over here, we can see again the last couple of quarters here, we hit the bottom on the profitability, and we've been climbing very nicely for the last couple of quarters. So now, unfortunately, it's going to be more about the revenue as opposed to the profitability, even though that is a very good sign. And now a situation like this, again, about 34.4 million. If the company comes in light with like 30, 31 million, they're definitely going to beat it up and bring it back down to probably sub $2 in my opinion. But overall, again, even looking at last year on the dip, bringing in over 190 million, you're telling me the company's worth 300 million. So that's why I initially found the stock, because I remember, a while before this that it was trending for a little while, and I know a couple of people jumped in and, made a couple of bucks, so they've always kind of kept an eye on this. That's what we do, right? We constantly go back to the well. If we took 2 trades on Coca-Cola in 3 months and we made money both times, we're always going to be looking for Coca-Cola to try to get to a specific level so we can, go long, go short, buy calls, buy puts, and try to go 3 for 3, right? That's what it means to go back to the well, to just keep doing what was working until, of course, you miss big and probably, take a big loss. But, it's understandable to go back to the well. But more importantly, I had someone mention to me that they actually bought calls out. They bought like 2.5s all the way out to like 2025. And that actually might not be a bad idea. Of course, the stock has been climbing. So, of course, if you can see a pullback to like 230, that would be ideal for the time to step in and go long with those calls. However, with all the turmoil happening overseas, people actually potentially talking about this event where they just might start pulling in countries from the Western world over here, and of course all throughout Europe and even Eastern Europe. So they're talking potentially like this could be the beginning of World War III. I personally don't know if it'll get that out of control. However, I do know that, of course, any type of turmoil like that, obviously defense stocks, ammunition companies, right? All of these stocks are going to see a little short-term bump. So that's why sometimes you do have to kind of pay attention to the politics and the little geopolitical news that comes out and whatnot, because it definitely does impact some stocks. But more importantly, looking forward to 2024 elections here in the States, We're talking roughly 13 months from today. Can't wait. I'm basically counting down the days. I will never forget how well my account did under President Trump. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the best presidents for the stock market anyway. So if you're investing or you're a trader, you in my opinion, you should want President Trump as opposed to a lot of these other candidates. But either way, I kind of feel like these companies are going to benefit regardless of who gets elected moving forward about 12, 13 months from now, right? Because it's like, if Trump gets in, a lot of people, he's more patriotic. He supports the Second Amendment. He puts America first, supposedly, in a lot of his policies. I know I'm not. Please don't debate. I don't want to get into a political debate in the comments. But of course, you're free to say whatever you want. But basically, it's like, we like when you have that patriotism. We saw a lot of people go out and buy a couple of guns and obviously grab some ammunition and, just be a supporter of our Second Amendment here, of our Constitution. And on the flip side, you kind of have the extreme inverse, right? Because then, someone like Joe Biden came in, and what did we see? We saw a surge, a rise in gun sales and ammunition sales. So that's why it's actually pretty interesting the way this could work out. And, shout out, who was that actually? Let's see. Inspector Kemp posted a couple of hours ago saying that he took a position on the 250 2025 calls on POW. And that's why, again, very interesting, because I feel like if we get like Trump or potentially another Republican, maybe like a DeSantis, even though I know a lot of people are giving him crap, but again, either way, if you get like a patriotic, America first candidate, then people will potentially buy guns and ammunition. And of course, if you get someone from the exact opposite of the spectrum, people here in the States anyway will kind of become potentially a little bit more paranoid, and that will also increase gun sales and ammunition sales. So that's why that's a very interesting play. Again, shout out to Inspector Kemp. And something like that could very well work out over time, especially if you're buying, 2 years out. But POW overall, I do like it, but we did really just have this big explosion, so I have a feeling that they will potentially kind of bring it back down to one of the first levels it jumped to before they potentially take it another leg higher. That's really what I'm seeing anyway. We switch over here to stock charts. As you can see, actually bounced off of the top Bollinger Band and stayed above it. That's why I'm saying I'm seeing some technical indicators that this is actually still remaining pretty bullish. And that's why I say this is the rough part about trading, right? Because technically, in my opinion, it should drop down to like 230 again, and you should be able to buy this for like a 10-15% discount from where it's currently trading. However, again, on the flip side, the way it actually bounced off of this trend line basically to stay above it, and of course the way it's staying above the top Bollinger Band here as well, it does look technically relatively bullish. But the problem again is, look at the MACD, absolutely exploded to the moon. Basically the highest level, as you can see, going all the way back to, tail end of April we're looking at. So the MACD has gotten a little out of control, and looking at the RSI here on the daily, it's sitting at about 76.5 right now. So well above that benchmark. And you can see yesterday, it looks like it was 80 plus. And now today, we had the initial pop, and now we kind of started to sell off and the stock turned red. So that's why it may be considered overbought here at this level, and that's why I'm saying we could have a pull back before we have a potential bounce and another leg higher. However, the RSI on the weekly, again, sitting here at only a little over 66. So that does technically have a little bit more room to grow. So my deepest fear, though, is that someone steps in today and then tomorrow we see a pop up to like 285 or 286 right at that trend line we were looking at, and then you have like an immediate rejection like 5 minutes after the open, and it just rejects off that level, and all of a sudden it starts chunking back down 260, 250, right? And you could have made like a quick 7, 8, 10%, but of course you didn't expect it to immediately pop and then crash. So that's why I'm really looking at this situation. I'm hoping that no one just gets sucked in at the wrong price and the wrong time. But overall, I do like it. And again, just look over the years at how steady and stable this 200-day moving average has been. Practically a straight line going all the way back to the ball dropping in 2022. So that's why I feel, in my opinion, this, of course, is a main key level. And even if we jump up from there, we're going to be, we'll call it 50% higher than where we are, which will give us a market cap of like 460 million. And again, based on the revenue that the company brought in, I mean, that wouldn't be wild. That wouldn't be like an overinflated valuation to give the stock. So, in my opinion, I do think we will get back to that 375, but unless there's a big positive catalyst announcement, I have a feeling that it's just going to kind of hang out, and it may take 1 to 2 quarters of earnings to really bring that stock up, because to the 375 level. Because right now, again, I do feel it's about the revenue. People could buy into this hype, and we can pump it back up to 3, no problem. But I'm telling you, if that company comes out and misses earnings on the revenue side, like I mentioned, by a couple of million or something like that, if they come out with another inconsistent miss, they will immediately crash the stock and beat the crap out of it. So this is one you definitely have to be wary about. And again, it's, we're talking about a market cap of only a couple of $100 million. So you should understand that going into a stock like this, a smaller cap company that's much more volatile, it can swing at any time, right? You have to understand these risks involved. But again, on the weekly, we're above the top Bollinger Band here. But again, in my opinion, I do feel we're pulling back. We had the cross here, of course, on the MACD on the weekly. Stock's up 17.5% this week so far. It's only Wednesday again. And that's why I'm saying, again, we could have a little bit more of a pop and potentially get this weekly RSI to that 70 benchmark before we reject. But in my opinion, I would wait for big spike up, and now you wait for a big spike down, something like this, 230, 220. Then that's when you step in, and, because that's why I have a feeling they're going to do something like that, and they're going to bring it down and begin to like step it up. And of course, again, chances are it will run up a little bit, or it should anyway, around mid-November when the company posts earnings. So that's why I just wanted to do a quick update video, because I know percentage-wise, like I said, it just went from sub 2 to 280, right? So anyone who was involved in the last week or so, you just made a phenomenal percentage return. And I know you're potentially thinking, should I sell it? Is it going higher? Or if you have if you're looking to take a new position, should I get in here at 270, or is it going to pull back to 250? So that's why, again, this is the tough part about trading. This is what I talk about, because technically the trade should have been taken here at like the 2s, the low 2s, somewhere in this consolidation range. That's why I did my initial video on it. And now, of course, we popped out of the range, and it's rough because you have some technical saying it's bullish, some saying it should pull back and be bearish, but at the end of the day, the numbers are showing it's undervalued, in my opinion. So that's why now, after a big move like this, technically a stock can now go either way. But again, in my opinion, I would rather miss a short rally and then wait for a sell-off and get in at a better price, as opposed to forcing my way in here at 270, and then you wake up, 3-4 days from today, and it's back down to like 235, right? Obviously, that's going to suck. You're going to be all upset and stressed out and pissed off. So that's why I always say, with a lot of situations, sometimes you're better off just not doing anything and just remaining patient. But I know I actually went on for longer than I wanted to. I just wanted to do a quick update video, but I'm going to leave it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel, of course. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. I will do update videos on POWW. I'll talk about brand name companies like Coca-Cola. Discord link in the description of every video. I always advise everyone to join the Discord, especially if you're a short-term trader. Again, not to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I've been making some pretty decent calls there in the short term in the Discord. So if you were in, you could have made a couple of bucks there with some scalp trades, some day trades, some week trades. But again, I will do all of this for you guys. All I ask, just do me one favor. Push the subscribe button. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are very rocky and they're volatile and they're uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone watching makes a couple of bucks. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next vid.